What's going on, everyone? Jeremy here from the Quarter, and I ran across a pretty interesting article from Pop Sugar, which is essentially a rag for, I don't know, lonely women and people who are obsessed with Hollywood weirdos, who look up to Hollywood weirdos. And the article rages about being terrified of dating men in a post-Trump reality. I don't really know what that means, but let's hear what Abby Balter has to say about evil men now that Donald Trump is in office. Every day since November 7th, I've walked around looking. Let's first of all, and just before we get into this hilarious woke reporter, I do want to tell you about a product that I really do use and I really do love, and it's called Aura. I mean, think about a time, when you've had your data exposed. It's happened to just about every one of us. And how did you feel? What went through your head? Were you worried about how much of it got out there? Were people going to open credit cards in your name? Were they going to take out home loans in your name? Not that long ago, 2.9 billion records were leaked and hit the internet from a database that was used to do background checks called National Public Data. 2.9 billion records came out, including our social security numbers, and they were all out there. That was a time I was really, really happy that I had Aura. Aura is an awesome piece of software that does just about everything. Data broker, opt-out, identity theft protection, financial fraud protection, VPN, antivirus, password manager, certified data, everything, 24/7 US-based support. Look, this is the best advice I can give you. I'm not leaving my family and myself vulnerable to data breachers and data brokers. And if you don't want to either, go to aura.com/thequartering and just try 2 weeks for free. That'll be enough time for Aura to find out if any of your personal data is exposed. Maybe none of it's out there. I suspect they'll find a bunch of stuff that you'll be shocked to see out there, and they'll help you get rid of it. So aura.com/thequartering. Try your 2-week trial for free. Now let's get into the rest of the story. Here's the crazy thing. I looked up this author, and she's like a cute lady. I thought she was going to be like a gigantic, obese, blue-haired woman or something like that. But she's a culture writer, passionate about covering everything from politics to social justice to hookups and relationships to fashion and art and landscape. So she writes about literally everything. All right, so I've looked around into the eyes of men, wondering, did you do this? Did you vote for him? Are you happy Donald Trump is taking back power? You mean he was elected? And he was doing what he was duly elected to do. He isn't taking back anything. He's just, in office. It might be unfair, but it's still my reaction. Months after the re-election of Trump, which felt like a declaration of our word, a declaration of the, taking a woman by force, fraud, racism, corruption, and blasphemy are not just acceptable, but championed and embraced. So here we have 2 sentences in. This woman is clearly unhinged. I feel sorry for her multiple male partners who she will probably expeditiously, or she would probably post many years later, revoke consent and try to ruin their lives. Just my opinion. I would like to preface this by saying that I am, at my core, a hopeless romantic. I love love. I'm currently happily single, okay? Nothing wrong with being in your 30s and single, but maybe it's time to start looking inward and start wondering why that's the case. But actively dating or not, I felt this election was personal, an intentional betrayal of the safety, needs, and rights of women, along with many other marginalized groups. It's scary to know that so many of my peers, young men specifically, who shifted sharply towards supporting him in the election cycle, opted to elect a figure who is the antithesis of everything I believe in. I just wonder what this woman actually does believe in. Should be curious. The election and inauguration are flashpoints that reveal just how pervasive and enticing the patriarchy still is, how deeply it runs. And that's why I'm changing my approach to dating straight cis men in a post-Trump reality. Any woman that calls men cis is not worth dating. That's just an absolute reality. You can take that to the bank. Like literally, if you're wondering, should I date this woman? If she refers to men as cis, the answer is no. I feel like it's a dangerous time to exist, let alone date as a woman. The blatant misogyny emboldened by Trump has become more acceptable among young men because it removed any shame about holding these beliefs. Whatever offensive opinions were tamped down during the Women's March and the Me Too era, you mean the era of which women made up, for the most part, heinous lies about men and ruined their lives with absolutely zero repercussion? Is that what you're talking about? Is that what you're talking about? Uh since has returned with a vengeance the last election cycle, and recent interactions have revealed to me that racism, misogyny, and ignorance in progressive cities like New York, where I live, are just as prevalent as they are in red states. Earlier this year, I had, for example, a crush on somebody. You're in your 30s, lady. You don't have, stop saying you have crushes. Who was New York born and raised and an actor. I assumed we were in the clear when it came to politics, but his true nature started revealing itself when he told me that he broke up with his last girlfriend because he didn't believe that he didn't want to be hooking up with some old ass puss. I don't believe he said that. I don't believe any man would say that to any woman. Like, I believe that is, like, source, she made that up. It reminded me of Trump's infamous grab him by the junk remark, and exemplified to me in real time the president-elect's impact on normalizing vulgar, offensive language, which I fear will only grow worse in the coming months. Another big fear comes knowing that I'm not eligible, or from not knowing what the eligible men out there really believe. Recently, I learned that a man I had a crush on was a Trump supporter, which is something he never expressed in my presence. I wonder why that is. Maybe he was trying to smash. Maybe you are literally an unhinged lunatic. Maybe you're an unhinged lunatic, and he knew that, and he didn't want to, say anything about it. Men my age know that many women our age don't accept this behavior. After all, young women in swing states still favored Kamala Harris in this last election. It disturbs me to know that there's something of a code of silence or selective hearing that happens among some men or some groups of men. It's worse than being outright misogynistic. It creates a false safety net that this type of man tells women what he thinks is okay for them to hear. Well, surprise, men and women have been doing this to each other since the beginning of time. Like, since the beginning of time, men and women have been doing this to each other. For me, trauma runs deep. One ex-boyfriend eventually revealed himself last spring. When I was complaining about harassment in the restaurant industry, he responded that I needed to find a new bit, as my feminist beliefs were cringy and so 2016. I am recounting these stories now, not to call out these individuals, but to draw attention to the visible shift in how men think and talk about to women. Let me tell you something right now. Men have always thought this about you. It was just that you were young enough and hot enough that they let it pass. That they just nodded along quietly as you spouted your nonsense bedroom feminism. But how much can one woman take before we just give up, before we lose hope? Such is the dilemma exemplified by the 4B movement, which started in South Korea, and women essentially have been swearing off men completely. While I don't plan on going this extreme, I completely see the appeal. In a world where so much of our leverage with men is in our attractiveness, the one thing we have control over is how much of ourselves we give away, or don't. It's a form of power, a way of taking back our bodies, which are constantly feasted upon by the male gaze. I mean, who even says the male gaze in 2025? I'm actually asking. Who talks about the male gaze in 2025? Anybody? Bueller. Who is talking about the male gaze in current year? Now, what's interesting is this woman, kind of reveals herself as just being insane, right? Frankly, I'm terrified that I will never meet someone who sees me and loves me and understands me, or at least tries really hard to. See, herein lies why this woman is single and will remain single. And let me give you a little bit of advice. Okay. You guys know I have my daily live stream, and I have a lot of women on my live stream, so I'm getting in tune with the women, with my Estro cast, on Tuesdays and Thursdays. You are demanding a man see you, know you, understand you, and tries really hard to, and yet you are not willing to try to understand those men. You are unwilling to understand why men might be leaning conservative, why men might have voted for Donald Trump. That is what you are refusing to do. But nowadays it seems further away than ever. But I am so unwilling to give up hope, as these feelings have lingered inside me for months. I have decentered dating from my life. So she's giving up dating, as has several of my close friends. While I will always be a hopeless romantic, the hurt and anger and frustration I've felt regarding this election and many young men's reactions that drove me to a point where I knew I needed to take a step back. Here, I got bad news for you, lady. Even if you quote unquote win the next election, you're going to be another 4 years older. You appear to be in your mid 30s, so you'll be maybe close to 40 or in your early 40s by then, still talking about, bedroom feminism talking points and the male gaze. I mean, who exactly are you going to be talking with? Now you're going to be in your 40s. Most of the men that you talk to by then absolutely don't have any interest in this. When I'm ready to dive headfirst into dating again, I'll do things differently. While bringing up politics on a first date can feel heavy, dropping an occasional half-joking sentiment about the state of the world and gauging